All right, so that was my first year's progress video. And this video is super late coming out. I think that progress video for Chopin's Nocturne 2, I think was like 8 months ago. I did that in December. We're in August already. So yeah, I've really been dragging my feet on putting all these videos together, then doing this question and answer that I wanted to do. So just kind of help people out, kind of understand my progress and how I went about things, and answer some of the questions that I got a lot of in that first video. I'm gonna kind of just run through my progress a little bit. If you didn't watch that first video, go back and watch it. Same title, just have it as part 1, but that has the first 6 months, and then this video right now has 7 months through 13 technically. That Chopin Nocturne 2, I think I started learning that maybe like a couple weeks before my year mark. And then I think I did that progress video like 6 weeks after I started. So that was a really hard piece to learn. So just kind of go through some of these questions and help you guys out, and kind of explain all the experience I've had before I started these progress videos. So I really didn't have any experience, and there's a bunch of people that jumped on and said that my progress is like not possible. I guess thanks. Those people probably don't play the piano or really know what good piano sounds like, because you can tell that I'm a beginner. And that's, you know, if you are a beginner now and you see these progress videos, I know probably my favorite progress video that got me started on this whole journey was a guy's name, Brandon Housley. He had amazing progress, and I remember before I had started, I watched his video. I was like, man, if I could play at the end of a year where he was at that 3-month mark, like, I'd be happy. But then once you progress, then you look back and you look at my progress video, you see that it's really not all that great. It's just, it seems like a pretty good feat when you haven't yet done it. But yeah, so I had no prior exposure playing the piano outside of like playing chopsticks or just banging on keys when I was a young kid at my grandma's house. She had a piano for a while I was like real young, but never played. We had that cheesy little keyboard for a little bit in our house, that again, like chopsticks is the only thing I learned how to play. I didn't think that I would ever be able to get, like, you know, hands working together and you know, have that you know, finger independence, and you know, just didn't think that you could really learn how to play piano if you didn't have a tutor. And then saw a Facebook ad for that Piano for All course. I think it's Udemy, if that's how you pronounce it. It's a Udemy course, Piano for All. Robin Hall, I believe, is the instructor. It was like 20 bucks. I bought it, and just to kind of see what it was going to be like. I was already learning Spanish through an online app, basically, so I thought that, you know, if you can learn a language online, you should be able to play piano too. And like within 5 minutes, you know how to do a C chord, you know proper hand positioning, and I think like the first or second lesson, they actually have you playing kind of like a accompaniment rhythm to like different popular like pop songs and stuff with both hands. So literally, like within your first 30 minutes, you are, you know, putting together something that sounds really good, like you're playing piano using both hands. It was a really good program that I followed along pretty good. I think I completed the whole program in the first like month. I did a lot of it in that first week. So when you look at my first week and think there's no way that you can play that in the first week, you're right. You could probably do what I did in the first week in the first hour using that course. It is not that hard to do. You just have to have, you know, proper instruction on how to do it. So yeah, after that, I kind of used some of these different progress videos and stuff, and I found pieces that other people had done within their first year. Kind of sounded doable, but a stretch. And it was things that I really wanted to learn how to do. And that's kind of how I chose the songs and the different pieces that I wanted to learn. Not like, you know, my mom was learning piano, they basically gave her a book and she had to go through cover to cover every single piece before she was allowed to do anything that she actually wanted to do. If I learned piano that way, there's no way I would have stuck with it, because most of those songs in those books, I don't care to play, you know, I don't know, the little nursery rhyme songs and stuff like that from, you know, 100 years ago. I don't really care to play. Yeah, so that got me started. Let me look at some of these questions before. So how many hours a day do you practice? It's a good question. I remember asking that question a lot too when I was first starting. So the first 4 to 6 months, I was really obsessing with playing piano. I was putting as much time into it as I could, and I was really trying hard to get through these pieces as fast as I could, memorizing them, and then, you know, getting a progress video put out. So during the weekdays, I was probably practicing for maybe 2 hours a day. During the weekends, especially if I had like a new piece that I was learning, probably like 4 or 5 hours a day. So I was putting a lot of time into it, like right from the start. And that's how I was able to like learn, you know, 3 Gnossians, Eric Satie Gnossian songs in 3 weeks. Really, those pieces, they sound really elegant, but they're very, very, very simple. Gnossians 1, very simple piece. I think I learned Gnossians 1 in, I pretty much had all the measures and the sections memorized in probably, I'll just say like 8 hours, so like a weekend maybe. I then spent a week practicing that, and I was able to, you know, do a little progress video on that. And then the Gnossians, I basically started learning one new Gnossian song or the next piece every single weekend for that 3 weeks. So then, you know, going into like River Flows in You and is it Niveau Bianca, however you pronounce that? Yeah, I was putting a lot of time in the beginning. Once summertime hit, so around like month 4 or 5, started doing things on the weekends, started putting less time into it, but I started shifting kind of the way my practices looked. So all up until month maybe like 6 or 7, I was maybe 8. I think it was like Shallow. When I did Shallow, it was that month like 8. Shallow was really complicated. Took me a lot more complicated. Took me quite a bit of time to learn. Same thing with that Faded. That took me a little bit of time. And so with those, like doing scales, I didn't do scales as much. So I think I started working on scales like month 1. And I consistently did scales every day, or arpeggio runs, or you know, practicing like broken chords or whatever, pretty much every single day as a warm-up, until I hit like, yeah, month 7, 8 or so, and I started kind of pulling out of doing those type of exercises and like the hand and finger exercises. Did the book, did those for a little while, and then just started to really focus on kind of the specific things within that piece that I needed. I'll talk about that more in a minute. But yeah, so after month 5 or 6, I started cutting back. Wasn't doing nearly as much on the weekends, maybe just a couple hours a day. And then now, once I hit that year mark, once I did that progress video for Chopin's Nocturne 2, I basically just play the pieces I've already learned. Maybe like 20, 30 minutes a day. I'll just sit down, I'll go through like 5 or 6 pieces, then I'm off. Usually like before bed, or if my wife's making dinner or something, and I'll just, you know, play piano while she's doing stuff like that. But yeah, so it was a lot of dedication and a lot of like obsession at the very beginning. And if you don't think that you can learn those pieces, especially that fast, you can. You just need to put a lot of time and energy into it. I mean, I was cutting out, you know, gym time and, you know, extra work and stuff that I would do at home to play piano. It was like an obsession for that first like 6, 7 months especially. And then every time, you know, it was my goal originally was to at least 1 or 2 new pieces every single month for that first year and see how quickly and far I could progress. I didn't quite get as many of the pieces as I wanted to, again, because I was cutting out, weekends, going out and doing other things, but I was actually really happy with what I was able to do within the first year. So yeah, and every piece, how long does each piece take to learn? It really depends on the piece. Like the Mad World and some of the Eric Satie stuff that I did in the beginning were very, very simple. It usually just has like a part A, B, C that's easy to learn. Then those parts just kind of repeat in different combinations. But I know Chopin's Nocturne 2 took me, a solid 3 weeks before I was able to actually get to the very end of the piece, maybe 4 weeks. And I was also laid up at home with a broken leg through most of that. So I was actually probably doing an hour and a half little practices with like an hour break in between just throughout the entire day until my family got home. I was putting in a lot of time in during that like 3-week block that I was pretty much locked in at home. So it just depends on how difficult the piece is. I noticed that as every new piece that I started to learn, my kind of foundational base got bigger and bigger, and it was much, much easier to learn new pieces. And as time went on, the difficulty of all the pieces I started to learn became more and more advanced. But I know, say like when I did the Interstellar Fur Elise, that was a very simple song piece to learn, being that I already knew how to play Fur Elise, and the Interstellar is pretty simple. That I learned pretty quick, even though I think it's like 9 pages of sheet music to learn. A lot of people had sheet music questions. So let's see. I think in like month 2, I stopped using online tutorials. I know all the Eric Satie Gymnopedie pieces, that Piano for All course that I took. The same guy that did that did like a piano by ear classics or whatever, and he actually did instruction on how to play those 3 pieces. Also part of the reason why I learned it so fast. I think in like month 2 or 3, I started to learn everything by sheet music, just kind of going measure by measure, looking at the notes, figuring out the chords, making a lot of notes on the sheet music. Then I spent a lot of time listening to like really good recordings of pros playing whatever piece I was working on to get kind of that ear sound. So I can look at sheet music and I know what the notes are. I could quickly look and I could tell, what the chord is, if it's a 3-finger chord, if it's, first or second inversion or an octave. I mean, that's easy to pick up, but I don't do very good at like sight reading the entire playthrough. I found that while I'm learning a new piece and trying to get my fingers fluent across the keyboard, by the time that you put in so many repetitions to do that, you start to just kind of memorize the song and you don't really need the sheet music. With the exception of Chopin's Prelude number 4 in E minor. For some reason, I still cannot, it's been like a year, I still cannot memorize that piece. I need to have the sheet music because it's confusing on, which goofy chord left hand shape that you're making, how your hand kind of moves down the keyboard, at what point it switches. I mean, some measures you're carrying kind of the same chord, for lack of a better word, for like 8 beats, sometimes it's 2 beats, and it's all over the place. It's really hard. But every other piece that I did progress videos on, I actually just had that memorized. So after once I did so many playthroughs, I have it memorized. So I wasn't doing reading sheet music on anything but the Prelude 4. And with that, you get some people that say, I know I've heard, people say, unless you're reading sheet music, you're not really playing the piano. And I think somebody commented once, oh, stop faking it, memorizing it, and read the sheet music. And I'm the complete opposite of that. You know, for me, every piece that I played that I did a progress video on, I know that piece from start to finish, front to back. I know it. I could sit down at any piano and just play it, with the exception of that Prelude 4. And so that Prelude 4, I wouldn't actually tell you that I know it. I could sit down with sheet music and I could play it. I could play it without making any mistakes now, but I wouldn't say that I actually know that music, because, you know, if I go to somebody's house and they want me to play that, it's like, oh, sorry, I can't play it. I left my sheet music at home. It's got my fingering notes and stuff on it, you know. I don't really buy into that. If you're not playing in a church choir, or you're doing like backup accompaniment for like a band or something, where they're just giving you music and you have to play while they're doing whatever their thing is, you don't need sheet music. You know, if you're in a symphony orchestra, you know, they all use sheet music, but when have you ever been to a concert and seen the guitarist sitting there reading sheet music while he's playing? It doesn't happen. Most of these, you know, fantastic, you know, virtuoso pianists performances, they're not reading sheet music. You don't see, you know, Yuruma playing River Flows In You reading the sheet music. He knows the song from front to back. If you know the song from front to back, you don't need the sheet music. And especially like, say Chopin's Nocturne 2, Opus 9, number 2. There's probably at least 15 that I found, probably, really, really good professional recordings of people playing that piece. And they all sound completely different. You know, where one person, you know, speeds up the tempo, somebody else is slowing it down. One person's playing really soft in this one area, somebody else is stepping it up, playing it loud. It's completely different. They're putting their own expression into it. So, I mean, I don't know. To each your own. I would like to be better at playing sheet music, just so that I could, you know, knock out more pieces, sit down, you know, if there's something that I want to learn how to play, like Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata number 1. That thing's like 20 pages long or something like that. It is like just a huge piece. There's a lot of repetitive parts to it, but you know, I don't want to memorize that, but I would love to play it. So I mean, something like that. You know, I wish I was better at reading sheet music, so I could just sit down and, you know, play it first try and run through and have it sound, you know, somewhat decent. But not really big on reading sheet music while I play. I'll you know, use sheet music to kind of learn a piece, and as I'm kind of working through measure to measure to measure, you know, until I am able to get it memorized. But if you're not having a hard time, people are asking me, like, how do you know what the notes are? You know, I mean, I have a binder that has like all my notes and music and stuff on it, and I had like a cheat sheet on the front of that. And so with that, you know, eventually you know what all the different you know, parts of your you know, music sheets are. And sometimes I'll still come across some weird symbol that I'll have to kind of Google and try to search and find what that symbol means. Different composers, it seems like they kind of use different symbols or different ways of trying to express something that they wanted. But you know, that's all just about reading music. Let's see. Didn't play any music instruments before started piano. Chopsticks at my grandma's house. Played the viola for a few months when I was in the 5th grade, until I broke my finger, and then stopped playing. Don't have an exceptional memory. Just get a lot of repetitions, and eventually it just clicks. Really helps to be able to memorize a piece too, if you can organize the entire piece into its different sections, and then you know, you can see where they repeat. So like Fur Elise, for an example, that section A gets repeated throughout the entire song. It's over and over and over and over again. If you can learn that section A on Fur Elise, that's like 75-80% of the entire piece. There's a section B and a section C. They're not very long. They're easy to figure out. Not that they're easy to play, but so I mean, like Fur Elise, super easy to memorize that piece. It has a lot of repetitive sections. So even Chopin's Nocturne 2, you know, just kind of understanding that it has like A, and then it repeats A, but there's just a little bit more like embellishment in it, and then does a B, and then an A with a little bit more embellishment, and then a B, and then A again with a little bit more. I mean, there's a lot of repetitions there. So when you're learning a piece, overall it's easy to where you get into like a new A section, it's like, okay, we've already done this, we're just gonna like tweak these little notes here is all that's different. But you have to have a way of strategizing and organizing the piece in your head. I also kind of some advice too would be to do micro drilling. This advice for any part that's tricky, or if you're having issues with both hands. Get a lot of people asking questions about using both hands. So what I'll do with like micro drilling, which honestly, when I'm practicing a piece, I have a tendency of just wanting to play it all the way through because it sounds like music, right? So I like to start the piece and end the piece, and there's always that one little part, that one section that you're kind of almost like gritting your teeth to get through because there's a good chance that you're gonna trip up somewhere. That's a really good area to like micro drill. And so with micro drilling, you might just take that one measure, or maybe a couple notes leading into this difficult part and then ending with a couple notes. Or it might even just be, especially there's a couple pieces I've learned that have polyrhythm in it, where you just have to like just do that like 3 or 4 little beats, and you just do it over and over and over and over and over again. So you're just kind of micro drilling that one little section. I know I really had to do that with some of the polyrhythm stuff, where it's like the coordination of it was just really challenging. And you start off really slow, it's really choppy, and you just go through and you do it over and over again, and then it starts to smooth out, then you can go a little bit faster, then eventually that ends up being a really strong section of that piece that you have. So you can micro drill, especially at the beginning, like the Mad World. There's this one section that I had a hard time putting the hands together in that like week 1 to 2, and I just had to sit there and work on that section and go slow. And then once my hands got in the rhythm of doing what it needed to do, then it just kind of fell into place, became muscle memory, then your hands just go to it. But yeah, so if you're doing something that has a big jump in it, so do a couple notes and then make that big jump, and just practice that over and over and over again. That really helps. So if you do that enough, after 3, 4, 5 practice sessions, eventually that weakness that you have should turn into more of a strength. Then you'll find that there's another area in the piece that wasn't nearly as bad, but now is kind of like the sore thumb, that you can work on that. So yeah, the micro drilling, super, super helpful. Digital piano that I was using, it's a Roland HP 605. Went with the digital over the acoustic because I didn't want to have to deal with tuning it all the time. And I can do the different presets, so like a grand piano, upright piano, more of a bright or a mellow, or all these different sections, so I can play different pieces using these different piano styles, and it just kind of helps to make things, change things up a little bit. Kind of nice. But yeah, I don't want to tune a piano. And when you're doing that micro drilling stuff, if you have family in the house, it gets really annoying really quick. So being able to throw headphones in and plug the headphones into the piano, I can sit there and micro drill as long as I want, and they have no idea what's going on. And then they can hear the thumping of the keys. But yeah, so that's basically most of the questions that they had. So again, my year was up like 7 months ago. I've just been dragging my feet on making this video. But yeah, if you don't believe that I did it, you can go back and look at my Facebook page, and I've got the entire songs, every piece like in its entirety on my my Facebook. I might move that over to YouTube eventually, but yeah, now there's I think there's one piece I've tried to learn. I think I got through half of it and found out that it's kind of biting off more than I could chew. So mostly just kind of getting better at the pieces that I've already learned and trying to put more expression and stuff into it. And that's what I've been doing since that first year. But yeah, so some resources that I've used that might help. Again, Brandon Hauxley was a good other adult piano progress. There's a lot of adult piano progress videos, but I really liked him. Used a lot of his same pieces. If you're wanting to maybe like get faster at scales and arpeggios and stuff like that, there's a YouTube channel, Zach Evans. He had a bunch of different strategies and stuff that I used in order to get my scales faster. So when I was doing scales, like every week I would work on a different scale, different key, and I would basically have like a weekend goal of what my speed was going to be of doing like both hands together up and down 4 octaves. And same thing with doing like walking up arpeggios and triads and stuff like that. But he's got some good little tips and strategies for being able to speed that up. Piano TV was a good YouTube channel I liked. Watched a lot of her videos. She does a lot of piece breakdowns. So like in my Chopin Nocturne 2, she's actually how I kind of was able to, looking at the music sheet, be able to decipher what section A and B are. And also she does a lot of like music history stuff. So like, Chopin, just using him as an example. She did a whole like YouTube episode, I guess, on like the history of him and kind of what he was like and his playing style and stuff, which was really cool. There's another YouTube channel, Piano Note. She does a lot of little, like short little videos that are really good, especially for, at least for what I'm watching for, is the kind of the, what's the word, improv, or just kind of playing around at the piano. So like one of her videos is called Wasting Time at the Piano. And so she'll just take like maybe 3 or 4 different chords and kind of just shows you how you can kind of improvise on the fly and make some really nice sounding music that's not coming from a music sheet. I really like some of the stuff that she puts out. But yeah, that's about all I got. So yep, I wasn't lying about how long I spent on learning all these things. That was my basically 13-week progress. I think I had learned all of Nocturne 2 like right about that year mark, but it didn't sound all that great. I think maybe I had just gotten through and did like a like my first playthrough all the way. But I wanted to, that was my song that I was trying to hit for my year. So I kind of pushed that out to 13 weeks before I actually did a progress video on it. So, and then really dragging my feet on making this video. I'd rather be out jumping out of planes or doing other stuff than sitting here and editing videos and stuff. But yeah, if you have any questions, I'll try to keep up with some of the comments, as long as it's not the same question over and over again. But yeah, maybe I'll one of these days I'll actually put all my individual songs, pieces from start to finish. And maybe at like the 2-year mark, I'll go through and replay all the pieces that I did in the first year and just kind of see, what the progress is like. It's one thing to, most of those progress videos that I did, I was only really practicing the song for like a week, maybe to like a month or 6 weeks or so. But you really don't get good at a piece just playing it for a month or so. There's that time that you're struggling to learn it, and then once you've learned it, now you're like practicing through it. But I've improved so much more after now having practiced, say like River Flows in You now for a year and a half almost, maybe. And that piece sounds really good. Most of my pieces sound way better than it did when I was doing those progress videos, but you know, you just get better over time. So yeah, hope that helps, especially if you're new to the piano. Shoot me over any questions if you have them, and look forward to maybe seeing some of your progress videos later on. So thanks.